Hello everyone, my name is Fredrik Hanell and I am a senior lecturer in Library and Information Science at Linnaeus University, Sweden. The title of the paper I will present here today is Managing Personal Data in the Age of Surveillance Capitalism, a Sociomaterial reading of Mozilla's Data Detox Kit. As a background, let us begin with a brief introduction to the notions of personal data and surveillance capitalism. Personal data, such as your location, age, or gender, are both socially constructed and fluid. Any piece of digital personal data is constantly being interpreted, used, and applied in new ways. Personal data combined with algorithms enables personalisation of digital services. Surveillance capitalism, then, can be said to be a new business model that capitalizes on the gathering of enormous amounts of personal data. In essence, individuals become objects from which raw material, data, is extracted to enable the selling of predictions of behavior. Hence, human experience is conceptualized as a commodity, and with the words of Zuboff, human experience is subjugated to surveillance capitalism's market mechanisms and reborn as behavior. The primary use is to predict user behavior and ultimately to govern our behavior and our emotions. For example, through personalized ads when you use Google search or when you use Facebook. In this way, surveillance capitalism can be said to pose a threat to democracy and to the rights of individuals to shape their own lives and futures. Another way to explain the nature of personal data in the context of surveillance capitalism can be found in this quote from Amy Webb. "Data is the new oil, and we humans are the wells." Because of a lack of legislative regulation and a growing awareness of the value of personal data, data literacy is arguably becoming increasingly important. And typically with data literacy, you refer to the ability to access, interpret, critically assess, manage, handle, and ethically use data. Data literacy is often considered a component of information literacy, and furthermore, critical data literacy is closely related to critical information literacy. Critical data literacy, then, may be understood as situated and enacted in the problematization and transformation of oppressing and unjust conditions of life produced by exclusionary, exploitative, invasive, and manipulative uses of data. Following this understanding of critical data literacy, this study connects to the emerging perspective critical data studies, highlighting issues of power and politics in relation to personal digital data. Previous research points to the need to equip young people with better knowledge about data, online traces, and a critical awareness of how data flows between devices and platforms. Inspired by these observations and previous studies highlighting the importance of data literacy and critical data literacy, the research question guiding this study is: how can data literacy be understood in terms of socially and materially constituted activities that can help individuals to understand and manage their personal data in an age of surveillance capitalism? As one example of an effort to increase knowledge of how personal data are collected, used, and how individuals may take better control over these processes, the not-for-profit Mozilla Foundation has presented an online guide, the Data Detox Kit, developed by the international NGO Tactical Tech. In this study, the Data Detox Kit is seen as a contemporary and practical example of data literacy expressed in descriptions of data-related information activities. Theoretically, this study applies a sociomaterial perspective, acknowledging the constitutive entanglement of the social and the material. In essence, all practices are sociomaterial, since there is no social that is not also material, and no material that is not also social. For example, a Google-based search, both the activities and the results, can be seen as an example of a socio-material assemblage, where humans and artifacts enact each other in practices. Our search practices are constitutively entangled during interactions with the materiality of search engines. This theoretical understanding implies that the performativity of personal data is sociomaterial, fashioned by the specific ways that collection and use of personal data are designed, configured, and enacted in practice. The material included in the study consists of 20 downloaded and then closely read pages from the Data Detox Kit website. Initially, 105 information activities were identified. After removing duplicates, 65 of these activities were labeled as data-related and included in a conventional qualitative content analysis. Information activities were then structured in themes corresponding to the digital tool or platform involved. 8 themes were identified in this way: browser, dating services, email, Google, phone, social media, voice assistant, and not tool specific. In this last theme, more general information activities are included, such as how we design and manage passwords. Following an initial classification, a fundamental distinction among the information activities could be identified, indicating 2 different types of data literacy. Whether the activity could be described as proactive, managing how personal data might be collected and used, or on the other hand, reactive, that is, managing already collected personal data. Guided by the notion of socio-material assemblages, this study identifies and analyzes 65 data-related information activities described in the DDK. The 8 themes identified connect to different types of digital tools or platforms. Sorted by the number of information activities, in total 65, the order of the themes is as follows: phone, social media, Google, dating services, browser, voice assistant, email, and additionally, not tool specific. The proactive type of data literacy includes descriptions of 45 information activities that can prevent or mitigate collection and use of personal data. The 20 descriptions of information activities associated with the reactive mode of data literacy are focused on 2 courses of actions. First, to discover what personal data have already been collected, and secondly, to delete this information. Next, a selection of examples from the analysis will be presented. You can find a complete presentation of all the thematically arranged information activities in the paper. All right, to start with, here we have some significant examples of data-related information activities organized according to theme and type of data literacy. Here, starting with a theme collecting most information activities, phone. In the second column, we see an example of an information activity associated with the reactive mode of data literacy. And in the third column, information activities connected to the proactive mode. Our phones are nowadays the main access point for many people when using the internet. With phones, we can surf the web, do online searches, use social media, and manage banking and access healthcare. This versatility makes the phone an important actor in sociomaterial assemblages of several kinds. And information activities in this theme are aimed at securing the physical device from unauthorized access, but also to avoid various apps from collecting data. Notably, several activities address the issue of location information, illustrating how phones are key tools in the process of collecting location information of users, a particularly valuable and sensitive type of personal data. Next, we have examples from the theme collecting information activities related to use of social media. In several ways, information activities described in the DDK suggest that we should avoid the use of social media and instead try to communicate through tools that do not harvest our personal data. The collecting of data when using social media can be mitigated by using a browser rather than the social media app, since the browser is an actor that is generally less invasive to privacy compared to social media apps. And also by adjusting what data are shared for advertising purposes and for public display. Selecting technological actors and interacting with default settings of platforms consequently affect how personal data are collected and distributed. Other activities concern untagging, that is to remove identifying information from photos and other posts, thus implying that we should avoid providing identifying information through tags, as this adds significant value to our collected personal data by linking data. Next, we have the information activities related to use of Google services. And to begin with, Google is of course not one tool, but rather a platform combining several infrastructural devices. These include search, maps, and documents, for instance. Since Google is the main actor in online search and controls services such as YouTube, activities in this theme are focused on pausing the extensive tracking of web and app activities, the periodical deletion of personal data, and to delete individual items of information through the platform's My Activity page. Though not associated to a high number of information activities in the DDK, the web browser is a key tool to access and navigate the web. Proactive information activities include browsing in private mode, that is blocking invisible trackers and spying ads, while deleting cookies and browsing history is the reactive course of action. Cookies are saved on computers as small files and track how browsers are being used, thus enabling platforms such as Google and parallel means to track users on popular websites. Using a browser that can keep web activities more private is to engage in a sociomaterial assemblage that grants more agency to the human actor. This example illustrates how technologies are entangled with human users in different ways, affecting how personal data are collected and distributed. This sociomaterial reading of the Data Detox Kit shows that our data-related activities are constitutively entangled during interactions with the materiality of the technologies we use and that use us. To conclude, several different tools make up sociomaterial assemblages together with users. In particular, phones, social media, and Google interact with users in different ways, affecting how personal data are collected and distributed. For example, when you post on social media through an app from your smartphone. This has several implications. First, the distribution of agency between human actor and technological actors can be modified by engaging with a tool that grants you more control over how personal data are collected and shared. Second, the interaction between technological actors needs to be considered. for example, by separating social media accounts to avoid cross-platform data sharing. In this study, two forms of data literacy are identified: a reactive mode focused on removing data already gathered, and a proactive mode focused on preventing data from being gathered in the first place. These two modes of data literacy can be related to findings from previous research, where we see, for instance, how young users tend to manage online traces by searching and deleting unwanted traces, hence resorting to primarily reactive strategies. Also, proactive tactics, while possibly more efficient, like installing software that prevents tracking, are often considered too time-consuming by users. The Data Detox Kit and similar initiatives can give some power and agency back to users from platform providers and other parties. However, both time, energy, and liability is placed upon the individual, which is problematic. Voices from critical data research argues that individual actions are to be encouraged, but at the same time, it is necessary for platform companies and governments to address the structural injustices and problems of the data-driven economy. However, such collective action requires individuals with knowledge and motivation to act. In this way, I believe that initiatives such as the Data Detox Kit can contribute to foster a critical awareness of issues connected to digital personal data. Such insights can enable further problematization and transformation of oppressing and unjust uses of personal data, the essence of critical data literacy, if you will. Thank you very much for listening. Here you have some contact information if you want to get in touch with me. Thank you and goodbye.